$700 over the last couple of years, just to try to keep it cleaner in there. We've added hand sanitizer dispensers, different soap dispensers, and etc. And so the supplies, $300 can pretty much stock us up at the beginning, but by the end of the year, we're already ordering more, and they come in large quantities, so it's costing us a little bit more to fill all of those dispensers. So that's why we're looking for a little bit extra in that area. The trash removal, I don't even know what it was being used for in the past, so I looked to get rid of that line item. So we're looking to put $150 back in from that, so we've deleted that line item. So that's all we're looking for under the park. For the rec, excuse me, let's see. So the one change we're looking to make, internet services cost has gone up a few bucks a month, so just looking to make up the difference on the internet services. I think the modem cost is a little extra, maybe $1 or so extra for the internet itself, so just looking for that to be even. And again, we removed the phone line, so we're taking $240 and putting that back in. We've deleted the line. We've never really used it anymore. We're never in the garage. Nobody's in the garage. Most of the messages are asking us if we want Visa cards and stuff, which obviously we're not answering or calling back. So the biggest item is the summer youth. Last year we asked for an increase because of supplies and costs going up for what Miss Jason does for us. But I haven't really accounted for salary. With minimum wage increasing, they have a lot of kids. A lot of them are making minimum wage, and the previous expenses and costs were less because of that. And some of the kids that have been there 6, 7, 8 years, they get 25-cent raise or so every so often. So that's adding in as well with the minimum wage going up. So we're just trying to account for that under the summer youth, because that's where that payment comes out of for all the kids that work for those couple months. And that was basically all that we're looking for as far as the Park and Rec department.
I noticed there's an increase in the salaries for the permanent position.
I didn't have that on my list. I'm not sure what the amount was, but if that's the case, then I'm going to probably.
Yeah, that's so. All I have is the permanent positions under parks going up to 25,000. I know we talked about the minimum wage increase.
Okay, so that's what that would. See, I thought I asked for that too, but I didn't see it on my sheet that I sent over that I had on my email. But that would be for the same thing, minimum wage increases that are going for all of our employees. We're trying this year to get somebody to help during the early spring when the children are in school, still high school. And then in high school, when they get out of high school, then we have, most of the kids that come work are all making minimum wage. But again, I didn't account for that last year either. So we're looking for an increase to cover last year's minimum wage increase and this year's, and hopefully this will cover next year's as well, because my understanding is minimum wage is continuing to increase for the next few years. So hopefully that we won't have to come back and ask for anything additional next year. This should cover that too.
Sorry, when you say next year, you're talking fiscal year 22 or fiscal year?
Yeah, 22.
Okay.
Like I'm hoping that based on this that we won't have. I don't think it's going up much more next year as far as minimum wage. My understanding. So, like I said, I didn't count for anything last year. I hope this covers it, and then I'll see where that puts us for next year, and hopefully we will be good for a couple of years anyway.
Okay, I guess my preference would be to just know what it is for fiscal year '21 and not build in hopeful cushion.
Well, I'm not saying that, I didn't do anything for last year. This year, what the amount I added for was to cover, I based that off of what we spent this past year, added money to that to cover the minimum wage for 2021. So, I'm not really looking at the following year, I'm just hopeful that it doesn't go up a whole lot more, and I'm not back here asking for more salary again next year.
Yeah, so if you look at FY19 actuals, because they had kept the 20,420
Yeah.
in 19 as well, but they went over, we had to do a transfer to cover it at the end of the year, so it was 23,974 in 19.
And we had a minimum wage increase in 19, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
and we just had one this January
Yeah.
as well.
I'm checking to see what the minimum wage would be.
I think they keep going up until
I
it
think
gets to
Until it gets
$15.
to $15.
Yeah, eventually, so.
I think this year was 1275, and I don't want to say it's like 1325 maybe next year, or 1350.
Any other questions?
Went from 11 to 12 in 19.
I think it's $12.50 now, $12.75.
Yeah, it should be 1275 now.
It's to reach 15 by 2023.
So you may see me again, but hopefully not. Hopefully with the transfer it works. I mean, like I said, this is to cover that $1.75 of the last 2 years, really, so.
There's some variables too, is the, game times and when they have tournaments. Is that all factored into this, Ken?
Yeah, because I used last year's salary numbers to do the increase, and when I put that in, like I said, I don't even know if I accounted for the extra 75 cents for this year that happened, but last year was $1, and like I said, we had to transfer a lot over to cover that, so this should cover that and then some. We're trying to, hopefully with hiring somebody for the spring, we'll be able to spread out the hours a little bit better and not have to have extra coverage. But it does cover the tournament. We usually put one worker there to make sure that we have somebody from our staff there, and then the league usually covers their tournament with the rest of their help that they have. So I like to have somebody there to make sure nothing happens, and if trash needs to be taken care of and stuff, we have somebody from our group there.
Right. Because they use your equipment.
Our worker does, for the most part, yeah, whoever it is that's there. They have their own stuff, they bring over some stuff from the Fairhaven facility and use that most of the time, so.
Anything else? You guys do a great job over there, and that park gets a lot of use, and it's always in good shape, and especially the bathrooms. I have to comment on that. I mean, you guys do a great job.
Well, last couple of years, that's why, like I said, once we started adding all that other stuff in, we had somebody cleaning it, the last few years besides our, group, so that helped out also, so appreciate that.
We're not going to vote on these tonight. We're going to get all of them.
Yeah, no, not a problem.
Any questions come up?
Yeah,
Be in touch.
I'm available. Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks
Thank you
for your
very
time.
much.
Thank you, Chair.
Item on the agenda is the Council on Aging. Heather, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me this evening. I just have a few things. We added a 2% COLA increase to our permanent staffs. That's how we were instructed to handle the salary line items. 4 years ago, we entered into a contract with Mr. Cesspool for yearly maintenance on our septic and to clean our grease traps. So that's been averaging about $1,500 a year item to accommodate for that. So every June, we're kind of robbing from Peter to pay Paul and different line items to scrape together that $1,500. So just for transparency, we wanted to add that in. And the last thing, and this will be the last time that we come to you for a long time for staffing, as we work on our strategic plan, we realize that our services are increasing, the number of patrons that we service every year is increasing. Our staff time for a very long time didn't increase. And the last couple of years, we had a 3-year plan. You've worked with us. You've financed a receptionist for 19 and a half hours. We added a per diem driver on last year. And the last piece of our puzzle is to increase our outreach hours. Our outreach worker currently works 18 hours a week. She's grant funded 100%, so nothing comes out of the municipal budget. But 18 hours is just not, it's just not cutting it. And just to give you an idea, in December, she serviced 49 independent, unduplicated clients. And what an outreach worker does is she does tax exemption paperwork. It could be something like a social emotional visit for someone who's maybe lost a spouse or is living alone, doesn't know what the Council on Aging does. We'll actually go into the home, educate them about our services, what transportation we can provide, and other helps. We do fuel assistance applications at open enrollment time, and actually throughout the year we'll help with Medicare and getting a supplemental plan. We run the Boston Food Bank program, which provides 30 pounds of shelf-stable food to low-income families and seniors once a month. So the outreach worker is responsible for all of that, and we're just seeing an increase in our service and the demand for that service. So we like to add an extra 12 hours a week to that position, and that came to a total of $9,396. And we're putting in, I don't know if you want to know this, but all summer long, we chase leaks in our air conditioning system, which dates back to 1999. It's when they renovated the building. So we're putting in a CPC application for $28,000 to replace all 5 air conditioning units.
Now, the grant for this, the program coordinator, how long is that grant, please?
We just received, we have a confirmation, Julie has it on file, that the funding will continue through calendar year 2020. So they renew it on a yearly basis. Their fiscal year runs a little differently than towns, but it will run through December 31st of this year. And that grant has been in place probably the last 6 or 7 years, so it's consistently been renewed.
So it's pretty constant?
Yeah.
Just a quick question, are you online now for a shelter for?
Almost. The flooring is done and the shell of the shower is done. We couldn't get the plumber until March to actually do the plumbing.
Funding wise though?
Okay, funding wise, we're fine.
Yeah.
We had all that money's in place. Town meeting appropriated $125,000 2 years ago.
Yep.
So they got that done. They've replaced the flooring in some of the other rooms. And another nice thing is we've been working with Mr. Oliver. We're gonna implement the same phone system as Town Hall, which is internet-based, so we'll be able to get rid of our phone line. That'll save us $500 a year.
Right, nice.
Yeah, so we're trying
When do you expect to have that?
The shower or the phone?
The shower?
The shower, the plumber is scheduled for the first week in March. So as long as that's, Mr. Merritt's been out weekly, just working his team, they've been wonderful. So
Yeah.
we're ready to go as soon as the plumber comes.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? You don't have to worry, it's not too easy tonight.
It's good, it's appreciated.
Just one question. How many residents do you think somehow have some connection with the Council on Aging? How many use?
For 2019, we serviced 350 unduplicated patrons a week, and our total for the year was 1,496. That's just people over the age of 60. We open up at night and on weekends for youth events, for soccer sign-ups, for things. We ran a yoga program for the community, so we don't track anybody under 60. So it's definitely higher than that.
Wow,
We're busy, come join us.
very good. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
If we have any questions, we will
You know we're fine.
give you a call. Moving right along, we have Ms. Kelly Koska from the Assessors Department. Good evening, Kelly.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Thank you all for having me. As you all know, I'm Kelly Koska. I'm the assessor, full-time assessor. I'll present the budget. I need glasses this year. It's a sign of aging. So sorry. I fought it for many years. I'll just go over the line items that do show a change. The ones that are level funded, I won't speak to, but if you'd like me to answer any questions, I will. The first one being the salary for the assessor. Again, the 2% COLA as we were instructed, that is going to be used this year per the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen. The administrative assistant, that's through the ASME clerical union. That's pretty much a set contract for FY21. Overtime, I'm going to bid for a decrease as the town hall now has evening hours, and normally our meetings are held on that day, so it doesn't eat into the overtime budget, and it's worked out quite well. We're looking to see if I know it's going to be revisited, I believe, maybe in the fall, but it has worked out very well in respect to our department and our service to the town residents. Longevity has remained the same. There's 2 employees in the assessing department, myself and Sue, and we've been here a little while, so we're at the higher end of the longevity. I'll be making my 20th year here at the town of Acushnet, which I can't believe.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and Sue is going to be at year 16, so I think it's quite an accomplishment. Not that I'm tooting my own horn, but the triennial certification, it shows a decrease because last year at town meeting vote, we went for 28,000, but the contract that we have with the camera service, which is Patriot Properties, normally comes in between $24,500 and $26,000, and that's what it's looking for FY21 and 22. That's the speculated contract I'm looking to get for the 2 years. Printing and binding is the same, so the next change is the camera licensing. That changes on an annual basis based, of course, on the product that they provide and the licensing. And those are the only changed line items that I have.
Management consulting?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's the big one.
That's the big one, sorry. Management consulting, wow. I recommended, or I've asked for $5,000 a year. What this line item speaks to is the Department of Revenue requires the assessors to attempt to get into every real improvement in town within a 10-year cycle. We just went through a reval for FY20. That was our last year 10, and the recommendation was made by my advisor through the Department of Revenue that to get a more constant schedule done, as we met the numbers, but we didn't meet them really to their satisfaction. So this $12,500 is basically, I can get someone, or through the camera company, Patriot Properties, they can give me pretty much a contract that they will be committed to 500 parcels per year, times 10, and the town average is about 4,800 parcels in a 10-year span, and that's what they charge me. And that's usually the goal I want to keep, to encompass that I do try to hit every parcel in town. We're in a 5-year turnaround now for certification, not every 3 years. As we went through it for FY20, our next triennial certification is FY25. So I think they're kind of changing their gears at the Department of Revenue as the consistency of us actually going out, boots to the ground, and looking at these properties, and since they are not going to visit us and fine-tune us and dissect us every 3 years, they're going to do it every 5. They're really focusing on that facet of what our statutory obligation is.
So that increase is,
It basically would cover 500 parcels per year for a 10-year span. And they would input the data, they collect the data, it's all done through this contract. The $5,000 that I was doing, basically it was a freelance, usually through an appraiser, or it was an appraiser, and what would happen is she just collected the data and I was putting it in. It was getting to a point where it was crunch time for me to get it turned around, because it can be time consuming.
so you won't be using an appraiser anymore?
No, it'll be all through this contract, correct.
Now, if there was a disagreement that was to come, would this contract person, would they be coming in to?
What, just to defend their findings?
Yeah.
That basically would more go into the role that I play, and I would go out and do the discovery to ensure that the data that was used to result in the evaluation was
So it goes
accurate.
back to you?
It would come back to me. Yeah, I don't foresee, if there was a true issue with it not being as accurate as it was according to the taxpayer, they would definitely come and support me or give me some guidance as to what the findings on their behalf would be.
Okay, all right.
Also, I don't know if you want me to speak to in regards to, potentially going to request the Board of Assessors to put in an article for town meeting for a capital expenditure of focusing on the industrial properties in town, and basically have a licensed commercial appraiser actually go and visit these industrial sites, because, again, it was advised by my advisor when I did the reval for FY20 to try to concentrate on these properties, because we may be losing some tax dollars that the town should be collecting.
Any idea what that would be?
For price?
Yeah, the article.
No less than 10,000.
Right. Is that just a one-time? Oh, no, that would be every year.
That would be a one-time.
A one-time.
A one-time, so we have good data to start out with and then move on with.
Okay.
So you're gonna establish a baseline.
Absolutely.
More or less, yeah.
And it's for that class, the industrial class.
How many industrial properties do we have, do you know, roughly?
Don't, but the major contenders, I would be PJ Keating,
Of course.
Hopkinton LNG,
Yeah.
the businesses along Nice Lane. Pretty much those are the big hitters, that would be the higher
A
end.
dozen or so?
A dozen or so.
Okay.
A dozen or so. But I think not all of them are more going to be the focus, and we're not looking to be biased, if you will. That's why I'd like to do all of the
Sure.
class and not single one person and think
Just
that
make
they're
sure the
getting
town's getting
attacked.
it, do
Right,
it. Right.
exactly.
How about those businesses where the Titleist property?
Those are commercial more, those are on the class
Commercial,
3, not industrial, it's a little different. It's, I mean, tax, they go under the same tax rate for the dispersion of value, but I concentrate more on the industrials. One step at a time, and, you know, maybe if it came to pass that that worked out very well, and the town did see an increase in what they're collecting in taxes, maybe it could be used to catapult, to fine tune that aspect of it. We'll see.
So this wouldn't be for like small business people?
No,
homes,
no,
this
it would
is
be
just-
bigger companies that obviously are the top taxpayers of the town that
Sure.
support that 1%.
Right, right. Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Just a little add to, we're going to probably have more parcels on the tax roll in the industrial class. Solar farms are becoming a hot commodity in the town, and the land that they use is classed industrial, so that would be added to that class for money value. The personal property, again, the panels themselves would not impact that category.
It'd be just a real estate?
It'd be the land mostly, because the personal property is, you know, everything that goes along with it, the panels, you know, all the equipment and so forth. We'll see what happens. There's quite a few coming down the pike potentially,
yeah.
so that are going to be some, I think the town will definitely benefit from it financially. Time will tell.
We can use it.
Yes.
We can.
Well, unfortunately, agriculture and farming has not been prosperous, so a lot of the farmers with the big tracts of land are pointing in that direction.
Better that than development.
I was going to say that, absolutely. So the town can keep its character, that's what it's known for.
Exactly. Very good.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Any questions develop, we will be in touch.
All right, thank you again. Have a good night.
You as well. And we're gonna jump over the soil board and board of health and go right to the library department. Tina, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Gotta move this Arizona iced tea bottle. I talk with my hands, so I imagine knocking it over.
No pajama night.
No pajama night, no, not today. I didn't know how that would go over without the excuse of a story time to back it up. Well, it's nice to see you all. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm Dina Bresser, the library director, and I'm here with 4 members of my library board to present our...
Just support staff for this.
I've got an awesome support staff. I'm sure if the other 2 could have been here, they would be here. So I'm very fortunate in that department for certain. We're obviously presenting our FY21 budget to you this evening, and traditionally, my board has liked me to just give you a quick rundown of how things have been going at the library so that you understand what the money that we request is going towards. So on the front page of the sheet that is going around, we have a chart with attendance at library-sponsored programs. The 2019 numbers are in purple, and I think you can see easily from both charts that 2019 was certainly the highest year we've ever had over at the library. We started being open on Fridays in 2019. We're open 4 hours on Fridays, and that was really community-driven. We had a lot of people requesting Friday hours, and so we added that in. We average 133 items circulated on Fridays. We're open 7 hours on both Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we circulate almost as much in 4 hours on Fridays as we do on both the Tuesdays and the Thursdays. So I think that right there shows that people are certainly taking advantage of those 4 hours on Friday afternoons. For the first time ever in our history, we circulated over 100,000 items in 2019. That's a 45% increase in overall circulation from the previous year. And on the chart on the front for circulation, you'll see that we circulated over 46,000 children's books. In our last year at Russell, we circulated just about 46,000 items in total. So the fact that 46,000 children's books were checked out in 2019, I think, speaks tremendously to the fact that families in Acushnet are actively using their libraries, which is wonderful, or their libraries, which is wonderful. Over 4,500 children, teens, and adults attended programs in 2019. That's a 15% increase in program attendance, which is wonderful. We issued over 1,400 new library cards since relocating, and I think two of the biggest factors to our success in 2019, at least, is through our library network sales. There's now a mobile app, which makes using the library even easier than it's been previously. And there's also an automatic renewal program, so if you've checked out an item and it can be renewed, it does it for you automatically without you having to stop by the library or call us or whatever. So everyone likes easy, and I think the library is easier to use now than it's ever been. So I think that's why we're attracting more and more people. So, on to our budget request. We have a 2.6% overall increase to the budget this year, 2.8% in salary. The salary line is based off a 52.2 week, am I saying that right? 52.2 week year for FY21. So you'll see we were directed to do a 2% increase for the director's line and the patron services associate line. Those are our two full-time positions, both non-union. The director's position is salary, the patron services associate is hourly. We have 7 library technicians that make up that library tech line. That's got a 4.2% increase. They're all union, and their hourly rates are based off a chart within their union contract. As you see on the sheet that I gave out, we did include a $3,000 overage within that library tech line this year. There's always been a little bit of an overage, about $1,000 to $1,500, but we're going for $3,000 in FY21 because we have a shortage in that line this fiscal year. The library staff used to be in their own union contract. They merged with the town hall contract in 2018. And in the old contract, staff was only paid for holidays if they were scheduled to work on that holiday. The technicians work on a 2-week rotation, so they can look at a calendar for the whole year and know when they're working based off that 2-week rotation. But within the new contract that they have with town hall employees, they're paid for a holiday whether or not they're scheduled to work that holiday, which is a wonderful benefit, but something that is sort of leaving me short in that line this fiscal year. I didn't feel it last fiscal year because we had an overage in the line from when we got the new children's room assistant position, which is the library tech 3, and because they were in contract negotiations for the first 3 months of the fiscal year, we had the money that wasn't used for that position to cover the holidays, so I just didn't notice it as much until now this fiscal year. I'm projecting ahead and I realize we're going to be short in the technician line. So the $3,000 will help us with the paid holidays, and it will also help us to bring in coverage when someone calls out sick or when they're using their vacation or personal time, and so that we can cover those shifts. So that's within the salary line. The custodian, actually, I wanted to point that out. There's a drop in that line, and that's because we have a new employee in that position, so they've started at a lower step, obviously, than the person who had been in the position for a long time, and that's why you also see a drop in the longevity.
How many hours does the custodian work?
12, and we're open to the public 44, so this is like the second or backup custodian here. And most of the staff I would say all of them are very willing to help out when needed to if there's an emergency thing that happens when the custodian isn't around. So right now that person works Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, 3 hours each day. So Wednesdays, which is actually our busiest day, would be great to have some help, but that's not the way it works right now. So maybe we'll switch his hours someday. And then getting into expenses, I mean, it's a very minimal 1.7% increase. Within our energy line, we're asking for an extra $150, and that's just because energy costs are going up a little bit. Our Eversource bills are higher this year than they've been in previous years. So that extra $150, I think, will just make sure that we're not borrowing from somewhere else. We're level in building and grounds, level in office equipment. Our tech support has gone up 1%. I think that's $17 is the increase. We get our tech support through the sales network. We just got new public PCs so that we're Windows 10, so that we have Windows 10 as Microsoft is no longer supporting Windows 7. The computers were purchased through a gift account, but all of the installation and getting the hiccups out of those computers were taken care of by sales for us through the tech support that we pay, so that's a great thing for us to have. We have an increase of $75 in the telephone line because we were over that line last year, and there's no talks of us, as far as I know, being joined onto the town hall phone line, like COA maybe. So we'll still be using Verizon and AT&T as far as I know.
Are you tied into the town hall system?
No,
You're independent?
no. Boy, did our phones stink, but that's... But maybe someday. That'll be well. I know that we had an issue with one of our lines a few months back, and Verizon came out and they said that the phone lines are so old that Verizon would probably have to come in and replace the lines altogether. But I'm hoping that before that happens, Mr. Cooper somehow gets us added on to his
Those are Verizon's
schedule.
lines?
Verizon's lines, yes. But it would be nice to just have a web-based system. Level in education, 2% increase in the sales line. It's about $300 in increase in our membership, which is so minimal compared to what we actually get through the sales network. Our patrons benefit so much from that membership. 0% increase in the office supplies line. A $25 increase in our children's education supply line, but I think the fact that you see we're doing so many programs for children really warrants $25 extra to the line. $500 increase to the other supplies line, which is how we purchase and update all of our material, books, DVDs, movies, magazines, music, and no increase to the travel line. And that is our request.
Question?
Oh, and we don't expect any articles.
Pardon me?
We don't expect to submit any articles for town meetings, so just to give you a heads up on that.
That's good news.
Yes.
More questions?
You guys are great. I know my wife and kids love it all the time, so.
Glad to hear that.
Get some good feedback on the programs and the guest speakers that you've put forward so far. I know that I've been getting a lot of good positive feedback on the programs and the speakers and the amount of, facilities, the services that you're providing. I think you and the library board do a tremendous job.
Thank you. We really do. We're really fortunate. I mean, I'm so fortunate I have a supportive board, but I also am very fortunate that I have a really great staff. The 9 people I work with, it's like, boy, did I luck out with these people. They're just very passionate about what they do. They have great ideas. I mean, last week we had a author come in to talk about her book, obviously, and we had to turn people away, and the room was at beyond capacity. I mean, I try to keep that quiet, but it was beyond capacity, standing room only, and I had to turn at least 10 people away who were really disappointed that we don't have a bigger space for them. And it is what it is. I know we're not getting a bigger space, but we make the best of the space that we do have. We feel very happy that we have what we have. We're able to do so much more than we could, do 5 years ago. This is my 5th year with the town this year, and I'm amazed at the progress we've made in 5 years, and I hope that just continues to happen. And when the weather's good, we do outdoor programs, so the capacity is not a problem. We have a beautiful back lawn, so that's helpful.
Put tents
also.
up and
That's
accommodate
right.
those extra people.
Maybe someday the Friends will build us a band shell or something, so when we do our outdoor concerts, we can get real fancy. I don't know. We do an awesome outdoor summer concert series that our Patron Services Associate is in charge of, and we do as much as we can. I mean, who doesn't like free things? I mean, everything that we offer at the library is free to those who come and take advantage of it, so who doesn't like that? I like it.
Was that the Alfaro author you had?
Yes, that was, yes. So that was Rachel Slade, who wrote Into the Raging Sea, and about the ship that was lost, Alfaro. And people were just, if we could have stayed, or I suppose we could have stayed open past 8 o'clock, but I think people would have just stood there with her talking all night. It was a very engaging evening, and people who couldn't get into the program ended up hanging out just for the chance to meet her and thank her for writing the book. So that was really awesome to see. So we've always got something going on. We got a good website, acupl.org, so check it out, and then you can go over for programs, because we'd love to see you there.
Sounds good.
All right, good.
That's it.
All right. Boy, this was
Thank you very
the
much.
easiest one this year. Wow.
If we have any questions or anything comes up, we can
Yep.
touch.
You can come visit me, and you can wear your PJs to the library, and we'll have a good time.
Sounds like
I
a
will
plan.
not be there, but.
Well, you can just come. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you to the trustees as well.
I got a 5th one. Look, 5 of 6. Come on. Who's got a better board than me? Come on.
Lots of great people, that's for sure. You'll raise his hand, you looking for a raise?
You're on your own, Bob. Thanks a lot. I'm all by myself.
Now we will entertain the Board of Health and Soil Board.
For the,
Joe Freer from the Board of Health, the health agent here, just to talk about what we're requesting for fiscal '21 budget. A little bit different. Most of the salary stuff there is contractual. The big item, the big ticket item, if you will, and that is, we've been talking about this for the past couple of years, is the part-time health agent, which we've been working with the soil board to be able to move forward to create this kind of position through the Board of Health, that also this person would have the Board of Health regulatory powers combined with, like I do now, the soil board regulatory authority. So what we're planning on doing with this particular person is basically appointing him as the soil board inspector, as I am, I'll take that title, give that title away, and then using them to really oversee PJ Keating. I mean, it's ultimately what we're gonna do. At this particular point in time, we've created, we've gone all the way to the point where we've created this inspection protocol that from now until whenever will be what this position does. They will go into PJ Keating, they will go through their records, they will go through the quarry, they will go through the asphalt plant, they will make sure, basically the intent is to check over all of EPA's rules and regulations, all of DEP's rules and regulations, all of the Soil Board's rules and regulations, and all of the Board of Health regulations. We've talked to PJ Keating about this, discussed it with them, showed them our protocol, and they're agreeable to it. We're setting some boundaries. At the last meeting that we had, the last Soil Board meeting, they were, looking for some boundaries on what we were looking to do and how much time that we were looking to spend within the quarry. And we started talking about that. We're looking, I think, monthly to begin with, where we would go in and sit down and check their records. We're gonna look at what kind of materials coming out, volume-wise, because our permit only requires, the permit from the town and the permit from DEP only allow a certain amount of material to be, a certain tonnage of material to be taken out throughout the course of the year. So we want to take a look at that, along with everything else.
Is that both asphalt and stone, or
Yeah, they have.
is it separated? Or?
It is separated on the, on their non-comprehensive plan approval, which is the air quality permit that's issued by DEP, which has to do with the emissions from the asphalt plant, but also revolves around the dust, too. What happens, the biggest issue that we have, and the reason why we went down this road, is because it came to our attention that really the quarry is regulated by DEP, the way that it's set up, and EPA. But they only come here every 3 to 5 years to inspect the quarry. And that has proven to not be a good thing. Because if we try to put it back on them, then, they just don't have the time. They don't have the manpower. And they're doing all the quarries, they're doing whatever they do throughout the entire state. And they're actually, in having conversations with DEP, are kind of happy with the way that we set this up, and the way that we're moving forward. To offset the expense of the part-time health agent, last year, we upped the fees for PJ Keating from $5,000 to $16,000 a year. Last year, we received that for their permitting fee for the year. This year, we've received that also for this year. We haven't hired a health agent yet. We're actually looking to start putting that job, posting that around February 1st. And so we're actually ahead of the game, if you will, by about $32,000 at this point. Plus we have some money left over in the article from a couple of years that we had requested, both on behalf of the Soil Board and the Board of Health, to do some further consulting, which we've been doing with our consulting to develop these protocols, if you will, that we have, and also to move forward to hire a part-time health agent. So,
did you develop a set of qualifications or a job description?
Yep, the Board of Health has done that and approved it. It was brought forward to the Soil Board this past last week for the Soil Board to take a look at it, and they're comfortable with it. This will be a Board of Health agent that's appointed, so it's really going to be governed underneath the Board of Health. But the way that the Soil Board bylaws is written is that the Soil Board has to appoint somebody as their inspector. And it's generally always been the health agent that gets appointed. On that note, the stipend part of it, moving into the Soil Board, will probably move away. And after this year, we'll have to take a look at what's going on with the Soil Board budget, because most of it's going to start to come out of the Board of Health, anything that has to do with this agent. So keeping that in mind as we move forward. The Soil Board budget isn't a large budget, but we'll just have to figure that out as we go.
Just real quickly.
Yeah.
This individual, now they be working under the authority of both the town, state, and federal? They
No.
authorized under the DEP?
They're not authorized, so this herein lies an issue. We can't regulate what DEP regulates, but what we can do is we can oversee that. So we can,
If they're not meeting it, it's
we're going to
reported.
document it, and then we're going to report it in a written fashion to DEP and say, listen, you need to come out here and help. And this way, it puts more pressure on DEP than us being very reactive. Something's going on with the quarry, it's today, it's super dusty, it's super noisy.
And this
we
is
go-
something that the DEP and the feds are
Yep.
on board with?
Yep.
Favorably? about.
Yep, just last week, our consultant had a conversation with the head of the air quality portion of DEP that basically regulates them. And they love the way that we put together our permit. So we restructured our permits because the soil board has to review it, and the selectmen have to sign off on it. So the selectmen are just as much part of this as the soil board is and the board of health. And what we did is we took all of the regulations that we've been working on over the past 3 years in regards to what is it in a nice neat package that we have to regulate with or what is regulated at PJ Keating. And we put that all into our inspection protocol, but also into our permit. So in order for them, and our application, so when they sign their application, they're basically recognizing that here's all the things that, even if you forgot, by signing this, we're gonna look at. This is what you're on the hook for across the board, and it's everything in a nice neat package, and then it's ultimately put on their permit that has to hang up inside the shop, so to say, so they can look at it every day. This is specifically where our part-time person's gonna go. This part-time person is gonna be, we're looking at it as a 19-hour-a-week job. We're expecting, we'll see how this goes when we start interviewing, but we want them to be very flexible in time. The intention is to be able to look at, as we move forward, not only the Board of Health stuff, not only the soil board stuff, but there's even, as you know, maybe it's February 11th, there's a land use license that's coming up, a public hearing. Any conditions that might come out of that, we're going to incorporate in so that particular person can look at all that too, and kind of work in conjunction with the selectmen, because ultimately, like I said, we're all tied together through these permits. And, again, like I said, the biggest thing here is we up that fee to compensate for this. And the intent was, when we first started talking to BJ Keating, we weren't gonna be able to get all of the money, because technically, they're still a health agent. So they're not gonna necessarily spend all their time at PJ Keating, because winter comes, and it slows down a little bit. But during the season, they'll be there, they'll be around it, in front of it, counting trucks, in the back, they can do some, DEP's got a cache, if you will, of noise. I lost what the word was, but basically to detect the noise, the decibel levels, and to be able to check into that. So that's something we want to do. They keep the instruments up to speed. They make sure they're constantly calibrated. Thank you, Bob. And we can borrow them. And then they said that to us, which is a good thing. There's a lot of stuff, I'm sorry I'm jumping all over, but there's a lot of stuff going on with PJ Keating. There's a lot of stuff that we're looking for. We want to be out there at night. We want to see what's going on. We hear all the stories about the gates slamming. We have a big concern this year because they've moved the asphalt plant up front. Stack the trucks, we want to be around. We want to see that at night. We don't,
Are they 24/7?
They are 24/7. At some particular point in time, that happened. It's really going to be incredibly difficult. There's been discussion and talk about it, and I think the selectmen maybe will touch upon it. I have to look at it, or we have to look at it from the standpoint that I don't think that's necessarily going to change anytime soon, because it's a big machine, PJ Keating. It's intertwined with the state in a big way, and
No, I know, they provide a lot of materials to the state roads.
specific materials, and they do it at night, and the state does everything at night, so if we shut them down at night, then they're gonna lose their state contracts potentially, which now there's a whole slew of people that could potentially lose work. So it's, at this point, the Board of Health has spent a little bit of time looking into noise regulations, which we can absolutely do. We put on those noise regulations, it would regulate across the entire town. But it would definitely put a wrench in that machine, which could create a problem.
Who regulates the time when that sweeper goes up and down the street?
Right at the moment, it's them, basically trying to find the sweet spot because of the fact that, and it's us that had forced that upon them, if you will.
My pet peeve on that is they run that thing right through the lunch hour between 12 and 1.
That's going to be changed.
When everybody's, and they jams the traffic up, and people are, this guy's going 10 miles an hour, and people are trying to pass him in a no passing zone, and
So, the way that
they're
that
gonna have a big problem there. Because I live right down off of South Main Street.
Gotcha.
And it's every day during, when they're operating full swing.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
We were just talking about that at the soil board meeting, about trying to get that into a way. It's really just trying to, because of the asphalt, this is a story, but I'll try to keep it really short. The asphalt plant being relocated, with the way that the trucks run in and out to get the asphalt, most of that's going to take place up front. They're putting in a lot of different technologies, and they're working really hard to try to change the pavement in there. The trucks are going to be sitting on pavement rather than running all the way down to the back that had a really bad road that got all muddy because they have to spray water on it all the time to keep the dust down, and all that muck and silt gets stuck on the trucks and they can't wash it off, or they try to wash it off, and as it's going out into South Main Street, it's dripping, and those super fine particulate matters, the stuff gets all into South Main Street, the cars are going by, it's in a valley, all that stuff hangs. So what they try to do is find a sweet spot between the morning, when the morning operation starts, and when that starts to get super dusty, and try to knock it down. And that's where they were coming in around noontime. And it's a traffic problem, there's no doubt, but yet at the same time, it pulls the dust down. But we were dealing with those complaints.
I talked to the superintendent last week, and we told them that we don't want them at commuter time, like 4:30, 5:30, 6 o'clock. Terrible time, because somebody's gonna get
12 to 1
wiped out on
is
this
another
South
commuter
Main
time.
Street,
Yep.
trying to pass the sweeper,
Yeah.
and they agreed that they're gonna get them off the road by 4 o'clock. That way, let the traffic run at its normal pace, because at 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, I mean, this road's crazy out here.
We'll address that too. We'll address the 1 o'clock. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get this thing right. I mean, that's what we set out to do 3 years ago, and here we are. I mean, I think we've come a long way, a
I
lot
talked
of
to
stuff.
the owner of the sweeper thing there, and he says it's regulated by them.
Yeah.
He says he has no control.
They're gonna talk to Norman about it.
We have,
Well, I mean, it's not like he told me, he says, I have no control over it. He says, I have to do it the times that they want me to do it, so, you know.
we can fix that. We can.
That's gonna be taken care of.
I have a question. This part-timer is just going to be for PJ Keatings to manage, watch over?
The main part of the job is going to be, I mean, honestly, yes, that's what the intent is. But there's a part of that that will fall back on, to really think this out, you got to think that there's going to be times where he's or she is not needed at PJ Keating. And this is the time of the year where it comes down, where the asphalt plant closes, the crushing plant closes. There's really not a lot happening for three, 4 months. So at that particular point in time, this person would come back over and basically be doing Board of Health stuff, doing inspections with me,
Okay, so, but you said that they would pay a percentage of this, whoever you hire, salary.
Yep.
What was the percentage?
Well, we worked it out to be somewhere around half and half. I mean, that's really what it is.
Because we up the fees on them.
Yep.
And that helps to help pay for the fee for the
So we'll
new person
see.
coming in.
the thing, we did up the fee, and remember, we're $32,000 into it now, and we haven't hired anybody. But the thought too is, look, there's a lot of this talk about what we're gonna do with this particular person. We gotta see, I mean, if this all starts to go in a good way, because it's under constant supervision from the town, then maybe the Board of Health uses him more. You know, because he doesn't need to spend 4 hours every day just sitting and counting trucks and watching and going around and seeing what the dust is. You know, we're kind of looking at it in both directions. You know, he's got a place, or he or she's got a place to go if PJ Keating isn't working, but if PJ Keating's working and they're having problems, well, we're all over it.
So what is their slow, what is it, 3 months out of the year? That they're
They
slow?
close in December and they're open April 1st.
He'll be busy, he or she'll be busy, because we'll make sure they're busy. You know, if they're not working, watching the quarry, what they're doing, watching out Main Street here, how the trucks are running back and forth and all, they're gonna bring reports back to us every time. If they see trucks speeding, we wanna know who the trucks are speeding down South Main Street. We ask the quarry not to use Jake brakes. There's no law says that they can't use them, but when they're performing services for the state or the feds, and they're running up and down South Main Street, it's pretty annoying hearing a Jake brake go off from Roosevelt Street of Cleveland all the way down to the stop sign here, and these people are trying to sleep at night. They have brakes in their trucks, the brakes should be working properly. DOT is out there, and DOT will check them. And if we get the name of the truck that's disobeying our direct orders to PJ Keating, they will be terminated.
Yeah, then we can report it, and that's the nighttime thing.
I totally agree.
That's just
I
for
think this is
nighttime.
a
During the
great
day,
idea. I just think they should be paying for the whole thing. I mean, there's plenty of businesses that need to get inspected, and they have to pay for the inspectors.
Yep.
They pay full price.
So there is some stuff there that maybe after I can chat with you about. You know, I don't know how much money, in a sense, that we put on them, because I'm concerned that it might come back to us in another way, I guess is the best way to put it. So we can do what we want to do, but ultimately I think that they'll figure out a way to get it back.
I think, Bob, you were on the soil board years ago with us, right? We used to have meetings at the town barn.
Long time ago.
I think years ago, we used to charge them $50 for a permit to operate there. Am I right or wrong, Bob?
It was $50.
Yeah, and I said,
For a
well,
soil permit.
the soil permit that we getting $16,000 for today. So, I mean, this came up a long way from $50 to $16,000. We're trying to utilize some money from them to help out the town. If Joe's backed up with a lot of inspections, you know, you can't just say, well, I'm gonna go do an inspection today and look at a bottom. Sometimes you may have a problem with the bottom, and he's gonna have to explain to the contractor, he's gotta dig deeper or do what he has to do to correct the problem. Because sometimes the soils change so quick in a town like this. And Bob, as a contractor, he could tell you. So the thing is, we have to have somebody out there now, if there's another emergency in town, and Joe's out on a site, you can't leave that site. We just call that guy and you'll have a phone, a town phone, a Homeland Security phone, right, Joe? We still have one. He would carry that with him, and it don't cost the town nothing for the phone. And we would call him and say, hey, okay, you can leave there and you're gonna have to go over there. That's what the girls in the office would be doing, because he'll make the phone call to them. So it's pretty tough to run a bunch of things with one person. I help Joe out as much as I can, but I have a full-time job. You know, it's hard for me to, if I'm paving myself somewhere, I can't just drop and leave. It's very difficult. They'd have to wait till 5 o'clock when I get out of work.
But that permit fee, that's a result of negotiations over several years,
Yes.
and some give and take.
And then we're jacking up their price on their bond. At one time, I think it was $650,000 for a bond. We jacked it up to $1 million. Remember, I always wanted to jack it up, and now we're negotiating on a higher bond because we're trying to figure out what that place is worth. They're gonna figure it out, and I guess who's that, Copeland and Page?
Yeah, Copeland and Page and Woodward and Curran.
And Woodward and Curran's gonna look into it and see what that place is worth, because you're gonna have to do a bond. I don't think they're ever gonna close up for many, many years, because they just spent $12.5 million on a new asphalt plant, and I don't think they're gonna close that place up immediately, you know?
Yeah, they're saying 80 years. And I mean, our intent with this whole thing between the Board of Health and the Soil Board and the Select Board is to package this up. And we've packaged it up in a very nice, neat little package that will be able to be handed down for centuries, if you will, and say, this is what you gotta do. Which, you know, Bob has done a wonderful job, the previous Board of Health, a health agent, Soil Board, it's PJ Keating, and not to point fingers, it's just, it's a big business in our town, can consume the majority of a health agent's time. I mean, with the amount of different aspects of their processing. It's very difficult, and we do a lot of things in the Board of Health. And that is, to almost have that as a half my day, it's not gonna get done right. At the end of the day, that's what's gonna happen. You just can only stretch so far. So this is definitely a way, and I understand where you're coming from too. I get what you're thinking about more, but I think that ultimately, we can get double duty out of somebody, and get a really strong compliance going. And we're taking on, and you gotta remember, we're taking on state and federal stuff. You know, we're getting educated around what that is and what that requires. Again, not gonna sit there and tell them you're doing that wrong, but we're gonna be able to know that that's wrong. And this is where we're going to document it, and we're going to bring it back to the people and say when, where, what time, the wind was blowing, wasn't blowing, that kind of thing. And again, it can, I think it's going to be a great thing, not to mention the fact that we're also going to pull in, like I said, what's going on here with the land use license and any conditions that come out of that. So even though this part-time health agent is really the health agent, they're going to be working with the Select Board too, because the Select Board are going to be in charge of that land use license and any conditions that come from it, and I'm sure there's going to be some of them. And so now somebody has to work for the Select Board to try to regulate that, so why not make it this particular person?
Ultimately, it's gonna be a quality of life issue.
Absolutely.
Mainly, you know.
And you think 20 hours a week will be enough?
Well, we're thinking 19 to start, right? We're gonna make it non-union, we're keeping it under that. We wanna find, we've gotta try to find a specific person that's gonna be able to do this and wanna do this. Again, we wanna try to, you know, if we're saying 4 hours a day, we wanna be able to use that at night. We wanna be able to use that during the day, you know?
What type of education do they need for this? I mean, is it, you have to have,
I think just somebody,
reasons and, just,
Joe came up with a good resume that he's gonna put out for it, and you can't just be a flunky off the road, you're gonna
well,
have
that's
to
what
have
I was asking.
you have to have
Somebody
a
to say,
lot
yeah,
of
that's-
knowledge of what we're looking for.
Somebody that is knowledgeable of.
Yep. They have to be able to write orders. I mean, they have to be able to read laws. They have to understand the code, the Massachusetts regulations.
They don't know about open pits and mines.
They have to have some sort of ability to be assertive, okay? Because you're gonna be dealing with the quarry and the quarry managers over there. Most of them are great people, but you gotta be able to walk in there and have an idea of what's going on. You know, yes, you gotta, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have this super formal education, because that doesn't necessarily always mean everything, but you gotta be able to understand the laws, the general laws, again, and be able to write your own letters, have a decent, and write your own orders, you know, again, basically do what I do for the most part, and be able to do it alone. Because, again, you're gonna be out there at night, you know, and I mean, from my standpoint, I don't need any extra work. So if this person comes in and doesn't have some sort of concept of what's going on, which obviously I'm gonna be there at the table, making sure that these people know, I don't, so just somebody that's understands the health laws, understands, you know, what's going on over there. It could be somebody that worked in the quarry. I mean, it could be somebody that's in public health. It could be somebody that's, you know, like me, an engineer and a contractor, you know. There's a lot of different people that could be doing this. So I think we get the right person, and we tried to put the right price on it, that's honest. And, it's for a part-time job, $30,000 a year, I don't think that sounds so bad. And yet at the same time, we're gonna
I think it's
expect,
worth every penny,
Yeah.
just to keep an eye on things over there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, if it just gets, nobody's watching it.
right.
We watch it during the day. Joe and I watch that pretty good during the day. And when we find problems, we correct it
Their
immediately.
operation is not gonna shrink.
No,
It's gonna expand.
It's expanding.
They're
The
expanding
bigger it
already.
gets, the more we have to have subsidy, observe.
The old
Location,
Where the old asphalt is right now, they're expanding that out bigger
Patience
to
and
take the rock. That's where the money is, in the rock. So they're
They're
expanding.
going,
quite a
they're
bit.
going all the way out to the property line, they're going underneath the power lines, they're gonna, with that, they're saying 80 more years.
But you need them.
Yeah.
You need them here. Well, how are you gonna build your roads? How are you gonna build, everything that you're gonna be building on the ground? You rely upon that place over there, and it's tough.
Like they do now out there, they make the roads out of rubber, and the tires, recycled tires.
They tried that. Well, they do make tracks out of rubber.
Yeah.
Because they have rubber comes in with bales, big giant bales, and they make, instead of putting a stone in for the asphalt, they're putting the rubber in, and they're
Yeah.
using that for racetracks, for the kids to run on.
Yeah.
But another thing that we got them to do, we got them to pave out South Main Street. I'm trying to get them up to go up to the Century House and go up to the old age place up there, to do that big stretch in there, because that's really terrible, and they agreed that they would do that for us.
They're just
So-
putting in the, they're
And
putting it
Doesn't
together.
the state have control of that?
So that's a whole nother nightmare, yes.
That's another-
Right, if you
another-
don't know that's not owned by Acushnet at all.
No.
And
We don't want it to own by Acushnet.
Yeah.
No.
PJ Keating can't even fill their own potholes because they're supposed to have a permit to do it. And they get frustrated, but they've got the permission from the state to go, at least from entrance to entrance. So all that area in there that's in really rough shape. But realistically, from the Century House all the way down needs to be redone. And we've had a sit-down with Mass DOT, and they didn't want to hear anything that we had to say. I mean, we tried to push them around, and they pushed us right back, and they basically said, we might give you some money and give you the road.
No, we don't want it.
But, it was not a pretty meeting.
I think they pushed that on us a few years ago. We fixed up the whole road and let the town take it over. Be too expensive for this town, because
They
people
proposed
use
that when
this.
I was sitting on the board of selectmen.
No.
There's no way we're gonna buy that.
No, you'd have to keep the road black in the winter.
That's crazy.
That would cost us a fortune. Pure salt? Oh, my God. And I'm working on them.
No,
And I'm
sorry.
working on them right now, Bob. The sidewalks are pretty bad, and I talked to the superintendent there, and we're gonna try pushing, Joe and I, see if we can push them to fix our sidewalks. I had them do that about maybe 35 years ago, when I first got on the board, and they fixed all the sidewalks. I'm gonna see if we can
Well,
get
the curbing, instead of having, 10 inches showing, you got about 2 inches showing, so.
some places.
Yeah,
And
It's crazy.
any other state highway, that would be a huge no-no.
Absolutely.
But over here, I don't know.
It's
Hey,
not, it's not a major route.
yeah,
That's why.
it's just a combination, I believe. Yes,
Sorry, sorry, quick question. I think I need some historical context here, because I in complete agreement that this person, somebody should be supervising PJ Keating, but they've been around forever. Why didn't we do this sooner? I guess, what has culminated for, this has been discussed for the last couple of years, or 3 years that I can remember. We need to do something, total agreement.
So honestly, the way that I saw this, and this is going back to, one of the first complaints that I got when I came on board in Acushnet, which was 5.5 years ago, was a resident right across the street, and literally livered me at that point in time, because I was like, he was so irate and so mad, and I really didn't have the context of what I was moving into over here, and it rapidly started to catch on because it was constant complaints.
Plus, it's been different owners. It's not the same owner. Through the years, different owners have Yeah.
Well, that's changed over hands maybe about 8 times.
So the
Yeah.
issues we have now
Original-
are not the issues we've always had, right? So these
It's
issues
more
are
or less the issues that we've had, but again, there's been different owners, there's been different people, and it's staying on top of them, okay? If you get on top of them, and then you could run over there, and you're doing your restaurant inspections, and rodent inspections, and animal inspections, and everything else, and then all of a sudden, you go back over there, and it's like, oh my God, it's out of control again. So, that being said, as we move forward, they applied, the straw that broke the camel's back was when they applied to move the asphalt plant forward. All right, the Board of Health at that point, they bring, our normal course of action is if there's a building permit that's going to be issued, Jim Merritt sends it around to all the other departments and have them sign off on it. I looked at that and I said, there is no way I'm signing off on this, which led to the Board of Health saying, we want to have a public hearing, a public meeting. We notified all the abutters. We went to the Council on Aging. We had a big powwow with PJ Keating. Said, listen, you present this to all your people around there. All the people that were there and all the people that came, it was a really big turnout. It was a 2-day meeting. Basically let us know that they were not in any way, shape, or form being good neighbors, which then led into, we need to do something about this so that we never have to worry about it again. So by the time, at that point, it was the thought that we tie all this together, and we really started to look into every single solid. We looked into their EPA permits. We looked into their DEP permits. We looked in legally who had control over it from us, from the soil board or the Board of Health, how we had to regulate this, and it just started working itself into, like I said a little while, we want a nice, neat package that from now on, whoever is in the position of a health agent in there, they can go to this document, this package, this night meeting, and say, okay, this is what I have to do to regulate it. These are the regulations, these are the rules, these are the laws, these are the things that we have, because there's a dozen or more. You got 3 of them from the feds. You have 3 of them from the state. You got a half a dozen of them from the town and the Board of Health, and trying to run back and figure out how to regulate the places is hard. So we developed a relationship with them. There was a great group of people that was over there that we were working with, and every one of them has left. So it's a whole new crew that we're working with. And it goes back
It's
to,
unbelievable.
Is there a meeting Tuesday night again at the council? Or was that last week?
it's going to be,
Isn't it?
don't quote me, but I think it's February
February 11th
11th.
is the
And
hearing.
it's going to be
yes.
at the Ford Middle School.
It's at the middle school at 6
Yeah.
o'clock.
Because I believe there's 360 abutters, or to that, 360 abutters that have been notified, or going to be notified, yep.
Yeah, by certified
It-
mail.
It may have not gone out yet, but.
I believe they did,
Okay.
and then they went out certified mail, and then we're gonna do a reverse 911 in the area too, to make sure everybody in the area has notice. It's also going to be posted in the newspapers starting the first week of February, and we'll be putting it again on the website, so other people can see, because it impacts, the whole town, but mainly that area. Is February 11th at 6 o'clock
It's at the school.
at the school. Yep.
And this is selectmen, this is all underneath the selectmen,
Right.
this particular part of it, but the selectmen in the fire department, really.
The fire chief put on quite a presentation there a couple of weeks ago. and
Yeah.
He
It
did.
was very informative.
Yeah. We had recently added the fire department and the town administrator onto the soil board. Originally, it was a 5-board member. We brought them in to, again, just get all that information together, because the fire wasn't represented on the soil board, and they're a major player in the thing. They issue the blasting permits, and so now, I mean, it's really come a long way. And
Yeah.
ultimately, that's where we ask for our.
A lot of this has evolved over the years.
Yep.
It just grows a little bit and a little bit, and I think the major transformation down there is when they started working nights.
Nice.
I think that's when, people notice it a lot more. During the day, the activities, a lot of people are working, they didn't have that,
At least for the nuisance factor, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, that and more activity toward the main road.
Yeah, and that's our biggest issue going into this year, is we don't know what it's gonna be. I mean, we have no, DEP feels as though noise is gonna be a major issue up there. We agree.
It's pretty tough for DEP and to regulate. They've got 2 people that cover the whole state of Massachusetts. And that's really ridiculous, Bob.
Sure
You know?
is.
I mean, how can 2 men regulate the whole state? I mean, I've worked with them before Joe came here, and they said, well, if you need us, you call us. I mean, I call them, and then
Down
they
in a
come down
couple
a week
weeks.
later. I don't need you a week later, I need you today, just now, you know? It's tough, it's tough. So basically, the state is really leaving it on this man's hands, and the Board of Health and the Soil Board's hands, of whatever happens, you get to notify them later, but we're right on top of it, we're here. You know, and that makes a big difference when you're on top of the situation.
You guys are fielding all the complaints firsthand.
Absolutely.
They don't get that
With
impact.
your welcoming committee.
I even got my home phone is private, and how people get my phone number, I don't know.
I give it out.
I don't think so, Bob.
Yeah, so again,
All right, so-
we wanna watch over them, and
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
so going down, the clerical number 1, it looks like it's an 8.9% increase. That's not true, that's really the 2%, but we've taken a full-time clerk, and we split the full-time clerk between Conservation and Board of Health now. So it's really the same amount of money. It comes out, it's just, this is starting to tweak it into what she's actually working in the Board of Health versus the Conservation Commission. So her salary is going to be her salary no matter what. It's just a portion that's the ratio that comes out of the Board of Health versus the Conservation Commission. The 1.4, I still going to chat with Julia a little bit about this, but the way that I did this against that was, because last year was a 52.41 year, and this is a 52.2 year. When you multiply that, it looks like it comes up as 1.5% increase rather than a 2% increase, but I really think that it is a 2% increase.
I haven't checked all of them yet, I'll be doing that, but the other people all had a 1.4, so I think you're close, yeah. And
All
so
right, good.
FY '20 was actually 52.486 for the town hall employees, because there were 2 extra days, it's a leap year, and one of the extra days is the Tuesday, which is our late night. FY '21 is 52.2, technically 52.21, because we have the slightly longer days. Wednesday is the extra day, it's an extra 0.2. But yeah, you're most likely right, I have not checked them
Okay,
yet.
that's
But
good,
everyone
that's
else
good.
had a 1.4, so I think that you're close.
That made me nervous.
Yeah,
Being wrong, but consistently wrong is better than.
yeah, I'll go with it.
The 51.6% increase again on the longevity, that was an error on our behalf last year. We left out a $400 longevity, so it really was $1,624 from last year. I mean, obviously, we'll absorb that in our budget. We're not asking for any more. We prepared for that. But it's much less of an increase there. It's $1,624 to $1,855. And that was, again, the adjustment of one of the clerks in regards to how much time they're working, because again, there's a portion of her longevity that will come out of Conservation and a portion that comes out of the Board of Health. The clothing, the vehicle, the physician, public health nurses, and the communication, we've all left level. The training and testing, we up by 500 with the expectation that we're gonna have to, there's gonna be things that the part-time health agent's gonna have to be trained on. I generally go over, but try to find it in the budget someplace else, so I never ask for any more if I can. But I think that'll be fine. That's a good way for us to get started. The office supplies, we kept the same. The photocopier supplies, we actually own and maintain our own copying machine at the Board of Health. You can see that, we're at 596, 573. We're over. I mean, we've been doing a little bit more work, maybe since I showed up. We kicked that up to 600 with the expectation that maybe we'll even be a little more busy with another part-time health agent there. And then we increased by $25 the subscription and dues, because there are memberships that I belong to that the part-time health agent will have to belong to too, which basically is a $40, it gives us an extra $40. And the additional equipment we've level funded too, so. It's our Board of Health budget, and really most of it's associated with the part-timer.
Any other questions regarding salaries and part-time employee? All right, Joe. Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate it. Very informative and good job.
Thank you.
Just gonna get into the sewers and stuff, but we'll take that another night.
That could be long. I stick around for the soil board too, just that
Yeah.
was pretty much.
Basically, he covered everything with the soil board except for the salaries and stuff.
I'm just gonna keep that
I want
the
to finish
same.
that up, Joe, finish it up?
Yeah, we're just looking to keep, you have this, and I didn't put the line items over, but, into the fiscal 21 column, but the intent is to have it exactly the same. Which is $2,100 total, we're not increasing that at all. And honestly, like I said, we might be able to decrease that as we move forward. It's not a lot, but.
Any other questions, comments? Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Maderas,
Ladies and gentlemen,
very informative.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
See you on the 11th.
Thank you.
If not so,
if we can.
good job.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you for your time.
Have a good night.
I mean, I have to say, I've jumped in on the end of the, the last part of the soil board, and the collaboration and work that they've done is incredible, so, every time I come in there and sit down with the various members, I'm like, oh, what about this? They've already thought of it, they've thought of everything, and this, person it's important. I think everyone can tell it's important for everybody, mostly for the people who live over there, and they've done a lot of work to get to this point, so I'm sure you can tell that from meeting with him, but I've been overly impressed with everything that I've seen, just sitting in on the last few meetings and being a part of it.
I'm surprised he didn't quit when that was his intro to the town, like.
Right? Yeah.
I would have been like, whoa, I'm out of here.
Yeah, so, the piece that, the hearing is on, it's the selectmen's part, it's the land use license. The soil board does its own work with the soil permit, which is, the permit that's the $16,000 that they've increased. It's an annual permit. The land use license is because they're moving the processing facility to the front, so it's a change of the old land use license, and that's why we're having the hearing. It's mandated. But yeah, they've done a lot of work with it. It's the fire chief has been working really hard to come up with a nuisance abatement plan that integrates a lot of the concerns that we think will be coming up. It lays out a plan for, numbers, and even a portal on the website where people can report, even in the middle of the night, incidents that are happening, so that we can keep up with what's happening and how they're addressing the issues and making sure that everything's being addressed. Also working on adding conditions to the land use license that correlates back to this, a lot of the soil permit pieces, but also what DEP has, and just kind of secures everything better. So if they violate something, we now have multiple areas where they violated it here, here, and here, and we can make sure that we get them to, enforce whatever change or violation that they've done to fix it. So there's so much work that they've put into it, and I'm really impressed with all the work that everyone has done. Notably, the fire chief I know has done a lot on the land use license, because it's related to, fire safety of the combustibles that are being moved. So And obviously, Joe at the Board of Health, the Soil Board, they've all done a lot of work, so.
What about cameras? Have they ever talked about putting any cameras on that road, or?
Not that I know of, no. But again, I don't know if there are any issues because it's a state road. I know recently the selectmen.
Well, it sounds like they pretty much gave it up.
Yeah, I know recently, so one of the complaints that we've heard a lot has been the trucks that are parking on the street, on Main Street, even though there are no parking signs, they'll park in front of Dunkin' Donuts in the morning to get their coffee and leave their truck running, and the neighbors, hear it and it wakes them up. And the selectmen at one of their recent meetings voted to send a letter to DEP because the signs are faded, they're gone, yeah, so hopefully they'll respond and put up more signage and we can kind of help in that aspect. But yeah, it being a state road, it makes it more difficult for us to enforce a lot of that stuff.
So, Julie, what's the main objective of this hearing that's coming up? Because it sounds like everything's pretty much a done deal, right?
Yeah, so the hearing gives the neighbors a chance to be heard for whatever concerns they may have. The Solar Board has heard a lot of them already, I'm sure, but it's a requirement by the law that we have a hearing for people to be heard. You never know, somebody might come out of the woodworks that hasn't brought something up before that, they have a new concern and we can address it. Ultimately, the hearing will happen and the selectmen will have to vote to either approve or not approve the land use license. That will take place after the hearing, but again, it kind of opens up the comments for everybody so that when the selectmen make their decision, they have all of the information.
And nothing's going to prevent them from moving all the operations up closer.
If the selectmen were to deny the land use license, they wouldn't be able to operate.
That would never happen.
Yeah, that's not, because that would.
There's a lot of legal issues with doing that, so, like I said, jumping in on it, everything that we can do, we are doing. I can honestly say that everything we can do, we are doing, or working to set in place so that we can monitor them and enforce everything. They're a huge company. It's hard to see any way of them not being able to run the facility, but we can make them do it as legally as possible, complying with all, like noise ordinances, like you said, there's certain legal limits to what decibel, they can reach with their equipment, so making sure that we have, the tracking mechanisms and we're on top of them, so if they are being too loud, we can enforce whatever measures to make sure that they're staying within that level. I think those are a lot of the issues that we're looking at and looking at controlling, because I don't see how we can't shut them down.
No.
We can't shut them down. So how can we keep them to the legal limits of what they're supposed to be doing, is what we're looking
Be
at.
good neighbors.
Yeah, yep.
How much interaction are we having with the state rep in his office and the state senator in their office?
As much as possible. I know that we've been in contact with, the various reps over the last few months, but I know that, again, this kind of gets a little bit, it's a little bit testy of an area because PJ Keating works with the state on all of their state contracts, so I feel like there are a lot of walls that get put up at a certain point, so we get the most.
The state needs them.
The state needs them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the state has all of their contracts built on working at night, so there's a lot of legal implications to everything, which again, it's hard to shut them down, but we can work with what we have. And I think we're being really proactive. All of the departments that are working are being really proactive to make sure that whatever they can control, we're putting, limits on conditions and, plans together to make sure that we can keep them in check on it.
I still say they should have that vote from 240 coming in. I know,
I know, it's hard when you look at a map, it's right there. It's,
well, I used it, but I was when I was driving everything.
yeah,
And
every
they-
time I
they
see
complained
that.
There was a bird's nest there, and,
Oh, is that why we can't use it?
oh, yeah, and
The
there's
bird
a-
sanctuary or something?
they made more excuses than the law allows.
I don't understand. If you look at the map,
It's there.
it hits you, it's like, wow, you
I
should
mean,
be
they could come
using
right in
that.
and take all the traffic right off Main Street. All the neighbors would be happy as heck. And
Yeah, my
all-
understanding is
All
it's
the noise
been-
would be back there and.
Yeah,
they'd
it's
make all
been
the noise they
vetted
want.
through and nobody can get it passed for whatever
They said
reason.
that was
I,
with wetlands and it was, there's.
yeah,
When was the last time somebody looked at it?
I know Brian was looking at that when he was here.
Really?
And again, I think
I've been bringing it up for
from
the last
my
14
understanding,
years.
it's like you get to a certain point with the state and then they just shut you off.
They claim that they don't want a private road off the main highway. That's another excuse.
They don't want.
But yeah,
But
they,
where's, I mean, just because they don't want it doesn't mean it shouldn't be allowed. I don't want a lot of things and I'm still stuck with it, you
They
know?
allow them.
it's,
I mean,
yeah.
they permit it, and when I was sitting on the Board of Selectmen with Pete Kazera and Mr. Wona, you know, we pushed very hard, very, very hard to get that done.
Yeah, and you just hit a wall.
Yeah. Then it's just not
And
gonna
then like,
happen.
yeah,
No,
And it seems
Don't respond.
counterintuitive.
yeah. They
Because
just
you would think the
basically
state
tell you,
would
you
want-
know, Quit banging your head against the wall, because it's not gonna happen, so.
Yeah,
that's frustrating.
yeah.
Oh, it is frustrating, but
That would save so many problems, I don't believe it.
I know, it looks like such a easy solution, but
Too easy,
for,
I guess.
yeah, for whatever reason, it's been pushed. I know Brian had discussions and he got shut down.
Well, as soon as
Okay,
Brian
so
get it, I
recent.
said, I get on this case,
Yeah.
just get it going.
Yeah,
We've tried, and everybody's tried.
yeah.
all right, moving right along. Anything else, Julie, that, for the
No,
town administrator?
I know. No, nothing else really.
Okay. Next item we have, the planning department's been rescheduled, so
Yeah,
that'll be at a future date, 2/12. Is that confirmed, Ken?
Yes.
2/12. Okay. And now we have the approval of the March 20th, 2019 meeting minutes. And absent was Michael St. Ange and Jackie Stanley.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept the meeting minutes of March 20th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. And we had the meeting minutes of July 10th. And absent was Susan Delgado, Robert Fazera, and Jackie Stanley.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Next meeting will be next Wednesday.
Motion to adjourn?
Oh,
A little earlier.
have we confirmed the town clerk
Yes.
for next week in the highway water sewer? So we're all set for the 5th? No, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted, we are adjourned.